Hi, and welcome to the School Health Educators Podcast, where we discuss health education and how to best teach health ed in the K 12 setting. Hi, and welcome to the School Health Educators Podcast. I'm your host, Lori Reichel. Back to school night is approaching for a lot of us that teach health education in the pre-K through 12 setting. And I'd like to share with you the four top do's and don'ts for planning those events or what to do during those back to school sessions, as well as how to handle some of the questions. The top four questions were commonly asked as a school health educator. So real fast back to school, we might be given 8 to 10 minutes, especially if we're at the middle school or high school level. And we need to do a variety of things to go over what we're teaching as well as introduce ourselves. So it's not a lot of time and it goes really quickly. I actually have loved those evenings because it was a way for me to connect with the families. And I want to best support my students, which means connecting positively with their family members. So I'm going to start sharing a PowerPoint. If you're able to watch this on the YouTube channel, go for it. It's at School Health Educators YouTube channel. So again, this episode is focusing on back to school nights in which I have a welcome on my screen of Welcome to Health Education in 2025 to 2026. I'm Lori Reichel, your child's health educator. So one do is to simply introduce a little bit of who you are. Do a simple introduction. So for me, it's basic background information. I am trained in standard / skill-based health education. If you know me, you know I love the skill-based health education. And I also am the recipient of some Teacher of the Year awards in New York State, nationally, before SHAPE it was AFERD, and I was the AHI National Teacher of the Year. But I would share something like that with the families to know a little bit of my background. Side note, those of us who are recognized in an award manner, sometimes we're shy to do this. You just say it simply so they know that you know what you're doing and you were honored in that way. If you haven't been honored in that way yet, look into it. See if somebody can nominate you to receive one of those recognitions. But going back to a simple introduction, give some background information about who you are, your training. And for me, I have shared with families that when I was in health education classes when I was younger, I didn't have a positive experience. So I'm going to ensure that their children are going to have the most positive experience in my health education classes. They deserve it. Please don't talk about yourself a lot. The 8 to 10 minutes that were provided does not need to be all about your history and a trivia contest about who you are. Basically, the family members will figure out who you are when you're talking, and they want to make sure that you're a trustworthy person for their child. That's the bottom line, which goes to the next do, which is to update family members of what health education is. So it's skill-based. We align the curriculum with the National Health Education Standards. It's evidence-based. And what I typically would do is even show the units. And imagine this is for a course that meets every other day for the whole entire year. So there are 4 quarters typically for the high school. So the first quarter would be the intro of health and wellness, and then communication skills 101. At the end of quarter 1, there'd be an assessment on that. The second quarter focused on self-management and stress management skills, in which emotional health and mental health, functional health knowledge is infused or was infused. The third quarter, planning and goal setting with alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs being infused. And then the fourth quarter, the last quarter, relationship management, including accessing reliable resources in which family life information is infused. Please, the don't for this one is please attempt not to phrase things as I think children need to do this, or I will be doing this, I will be doing that. At times, that's natural for a lot of us to speak that in that manner. I know I do it at times. Yet when we're talking to others about our curriculum, it's really smart to say, this is what your child will be learning and the skills they'll be practicing. Health education is about them. It's not about me, Lori Reichel. I am trained to teach in this area, yet our courses are about young people obtaining and practicing the skills to be happy and healthier, as well as receiving updated, age-appropriate information. So when I work with newer teachers, sometimes I hear more of the, I'm going to do this, and I think children and my students need to do that. Attempt to rephrase things. So you can say, this is what our curriculum, use our because it is your school district's curriculum. So it's not so much about you, but it's about your district and what your department or your program is doing. Another do is to provide some fun facts. For example, our program includes mindful activities. And do you know that there's research that actually tells us that when a person practices 10 minutes of mindfulness most days, that their cortisol level is positively impacted, it can lessen, and people become more present, less reactive. Like there's research supporting these activities. Like share those fun facts with family members. Another fun fact is students report this is the class that is needed the most because it's about real life. A lot of students love updated health education classes. Please don't scare family members with a lot of scary statistics. I know that's an easy thing that we can do. Like the top cause of too early death of disability for teens is this, and then it's this. If sometimes we're pushed by family members about why you're teaching this, why you're teaching that, we can provide more of these statistics. For back to school night, it's recommended that we're positive. We're talking about the positive ways children will be impacted from our program. And this leads me to the fourth do here, and that is do be real, honest, refer to supervisors, and take a breath. Also share materials when possible. Now, if you're not able to see this on the YouTube channel, let me explain what my visual is for this. And it's basically a teacher who's in the center, and it looks like two other adults, family members, that might be pointing the finger at the teacher or not seeming so positive, a little angry. Truth be told, sometimes when we meet family members, they're triggered by some of the things that we represent. It's the reality. They might even have had past experiences where they were judged in their own health education classes. So we have to remember that the family members are real people and be honest with them. Be honest. Again, to say that this is what best practices are about in our field, these are authentic assessments. Yeah, you can see our units, our lesson plans. They're not available at this moment unless you have them available, great. Yet you can set up a time. So be open and honest with them. Attempt not to continue, so don't continue the negative energy. So if a parent is pushing you on something, like I had a parent who was asking if their child has to be in health class because they don't want them involved in some of the things. I said to the parent, we can talk about this. You and I can schedule a time later to chat because right now I'm going over an overview of our curriculum. Or you can also feel free to connect with my administrator. This is the person's name. This is the number. Like, I'm not going to be negative or kind of challenge the family member because that's overall not purposeful. And again, some people have had negative experiences in their health classes, or what we're teaching is triggering because they didn't get the support that they deserved when they were younger. Now, let me share with you 4 common questions we are asked. One question is this course a pass or fail course? Or is this course based on exams? Hopefully your answer to that is no. I know in some school districts it might be pass fail. I support a letter grade. There's a lot of research to say why for that. Yet overall for this question, is this course a pass or fail course? No. And actually our program uses authentic assessments that align with the health education national standards. So this is a course where students will demonstrate decision-making skills, effective communication skills. I know sometimes there are some people that will say, well, it should be an easy course, pass fail, yet that's not what health really is in our lives. Wellness isn't so easy to obtain. It requires work, it requires skills, healthy habits. So this is why the answer for this question is written in this manner. A second common question we are asked is, do you teach sex ed? Now, anytime I'm asked this, I always take a pause and I smile and say, I do not teach people how to have sex. It's not what we're doing. Our program teaches life skills with correct information. So the life skills include basic, healthy, hygienic skills. Think puberty. And a lot of family members will go, oh, okay, that's what we do. Yes, how do we clean? And that's for the younger grades. And then we also talk about decision making and relationships. And I'm very honest with family members about when we talk about relationships and we talk about friendships and romantic relationships, young people are thrilled to have these conversations because they're never given the opportunity to talk about them. And even a lot of the family members will say, I wish I had this class, because young people need to know what goes into a healthy versus an unhealthy relationship. And then how do we make these these decisions in relationships and stuff. I recognize as a experienced health educator that fear of what we're teaching kids about sex, it can be very triggering for parents, or very concerning for parents and other family members. So I highly recommend that you're honest about, we're talking about life skills, not how to do this act, but how to make the decision to do that. Again, this is for back to school night. For me, my philosophy is this is not about my agenda. It's not about pushing my beliefs onto families. Our programs, our health education programs, are meant to support all children in which they are happy and healthy. And if you look at the National Sexuality Education Standards, the topic areas for that include healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships. They do refer to sexual health, and that will include sexually transmitted infections as well as birth control at the age appropriate time. It will go into puberty and adolescent development. So all the terminology was purposefully used to be real about what we teach in health education. A third question that we're sometimes asked, and this can be by some family members that want to make a point. They might ask, do you have children? Here's my answer. My own children? No. And before anyone jumps to any conclusions, I need to remind everyone that there are a variety of reasons for why a person may not have children. And then I have a long pause after that, as I'm trying to do here. The whole thing, sometimes, a family member can be like, you don't know what's best because you don't have children of your own. I, as a person who doesn't have their own children, I take offense to that. I'm not saying I know how to raise their children. I have been trained as a professional. I will refer to the most reliable resources for their children, and I'm teaching to a group of children, not to individuals typically. Yet to make the assumption that I don't know how to help children because I don't have my own isn't true. And why I don't have children isn't anybody's, they don't need to know why I don't have children. I get really serious about that. Now, if you're a younger person, you're like, well, yeah, I'm just got out of college. You can say, something like, no, I don't have children right now. May in the future, something like that. Yet I have been trained in this manner to help your children as the overall group. Like, talk about your training. Because for a person to put anybody down because they don't have the same experience of, like, the exact experience, it's not fair in this way. I'm hoping this makes sense. Feel free to leave some comments and send me questions about this. I'd love to talk more with others about this. And then the last question I'd like to go over, the fourth question is, can I opt my child out of health education class? I live in the state of New York currently, and this is how I would answer it in the state of New York. In the state of New York, parents or guardians can opt out their children from HIV prevention lessons. That's what the law states. If you want to opt your child out of any other lessons, please talk with my administrator, blah, 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 whatever their name is. So I'm not going to, again, this is back to school night, I'm not going to argue with parents or other family members. I am doing the best I can for all of the children. All of the children have the right to be happy and healthy. And I recognize sometimes there might be one family member who wants to stir the pot and have an audience for that. I attempt to not step into that negativity. I attempt to. I know it might take some experience for folks, yet attempt to be as positive as possible. In which, to conclude, in summary, this back to school experience is about being welcoming and positive, keeping things short and simple. Remind your family members that they are needed. You really appreciate their support. And you can say, if there's anything I can ever do to tell you more. Your children matter to me. I tell them I care about your kids. That's why I'm here. And a little side note, I like having a visual. Just like when we teach, we need to support differentiation. For back to school night, I have a simple PowerPoint, not that many words on it, but some simple stuff. Or you might even have a simple handout. And thank you. I thank the family members who attend, and I thank you for listening. Remember that basically families want to know that they can trust you with their children. That's the bottom line for back to school night. And if you want to ask some questions or provide some comments or maybe mention something else I haven't mentioned here, feel free to do that on the YouTube channel underneath this episode or on the podcast channel, whichever one you're using to listen, or send me an email at schoolhealtheducators@gmail.com, and I'll get back to you. So with that, again, thank you for listening in, and continue to listen in, give some thumbs up, 5 stars, that'd be wonderful. We have more and more listeners throughout the world, believe it or not. I check that on my statistics here and there on these the podcast setting, Blueberry. And last but not least, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you so much. The children and youth need us, so continue doing the positive job that you're doing. Stay well, folks.